What's going on, Tamers? East here. And today I'm coming at you with a bit of a conundrum that I'm trying to get over, and I figure you folks might be able to help me out. So next month in Asia, we're having the common and uncommon only card events happening here. And I've been trying to put together some ideas, but I'm really falling flat on my back with this one. Not really sure where to start. So I figured I'd reach out to you fine folks out there in YouTube land. And I was wondering if you guys have any ideas for even where to start for an uncommon or common only deck. That's really tough. So if you have any ideas, feel free, help me out, put them in the comments below, and maybe I'll feature them in a video soon. Who knows? This video, though, is for the meta report for the regular Digimon events for the third week of the BT18 Element Successor set. If you've seen the past 2 weeks' videos, then you know right now the landscape is pretty competitive with Worlds qualifying spots on the line. And because of that, not really too much has actually changed, although there is one deck that's making some pretty big runs this last week. To learn more, let's take a look at some event results, a couple of key takeaways, and a closer look at some of the decks that topped over the course of the past week. A lot of work actually goes into the creation of these charts that you see here, finding events and then tallying them and then actually putting this together. But I gotta say thank you to the players because they've been making this really easy this past week. If you saw it last week, then you probably noticed that this is almost an exact mirror of last week's results. I think the one big difference from last week here is the resurgence of the Gabumon Rush deck that you see up in the champion level. For folks who are unaware, Gabumon Rush is a really math-intensive deck that focuses on the powers of the ancient Garurumon as well as the Louis Tamer and the White Analog Youth Tamer to essentially loop your turn. You can essentially take what would normally be like 2 or 3 turns in the course of just one and do tons of damage that way. This deck has actually been around since BT17 and there haven't really been any big additions to it since then. It's still the same deck from back then. One deck that has changed a lot though I think has been Purple Hybrid. Now when this deck first came out, I think a lot of folks tunneled in on the OTK version using Susanumon, but now this past week I've seen tons of different versions of this deck pop up. Everything from SOC Dorugoromon to Blue Purple Hybrid to Red Purple Hybrid. I've even seen decks focused on milling out your opponent pop up as well. Outside of those though, I think we've seen a lot of the staples that we've seen before, things like Red Hybrid, the 7 Great Demon Lords when you drop down to the rookie level here. Anubismon with Lilithmon has been starting to pop up quite a bit. I'm kind of interested in trying that deck out myself. We've also got things like an Ice-Clad Red-Blue Focused Hybrid deck, which is really cool. We actually will take a look at that a little bit later today. Things like Mother Control, Omnimon, and keep in mind this Patamon you see here is actually Yellow Vaccine Armor. So this is the Rapidmon and the Magnamon X antibodies together with the Yellow Vaccine engine. Things like 3 Great Angels, which actually received support in BT18. I think a lot of folks that kind of flew over their head, but this deck has actually gotten a couple of new cards to play with in this set as well. And a lot of decks we've come to know and love, things like the Abotomon, Blue Magnamon Armor, even Mastimon, the Nature Spirits decks, as well as things like Shine Greymon, Tyrant, and Zaphagamon. But like I said before, outside of Gabumon Rush, this list really hasn't changed much at all. I think that because this season is so competitive, the results have been solidified pretty quickly. The first deck that we're going to take a close look at this week is going to be 3 Great Angels. Now, this deck has been getting support steadily since I think BT14, and BT18 is also no exception. The lower end for this deck is pretty common with things like the Patamon for quick evolves, you've got the Kudamon for search, and the Salamon for security manipulation. Level 4s for this deck are also pretty standard, things like the Gatomon here for barrier, as well as the ability to gain memory whenever you pop stuff off of security, as well as things like the Angemon, who are great for recovery and the ability to completely annihilate virus-type Digimon. And then the one copy of the Geogreymon there just for the Tamer Search Insecurity. The upper end of the deck is where you're going to see a couple of changes here. The first one going to be the one copy of the BT18 Arc High Angemon, who can stack Angels in security, and the added benefit here is that if you have less than 4 security, it just is essentially recovery with no drawbacks. Speaking of recovery, he actually gets recovery as an inheritance effect on deletion. Also at level 5, you see the Magna Angemon, who's a great way to cycle into more Angels, whether you evolve into him yourself, or you play him down with the Divinimon's effect. Speaking of Divinimon, he is still the star of this deck, letting you play more Angels whenever he's evolved into. The added benefit here is that he has new tools to play with from this set in the 3 copies of the Shadow Seraphimon Ace. Shadow Seraphi is a great defensive tool with the power to de-digivolve 3, can block, and he has the ability to give -5k whenever an attack is redirected once per turn. Additionally, he has the nice text rule box that says that he counts as a 3 Great Angels card, which means he fully integrates with all the deck's effects. Despite these new cards, the deck's game plan is actually still pretty much the same. You want to get to your Diminimon as soon as you possibly can, and then bring Rapture upon your opponent. You do this by playing more Angels with the Diminimon, and then you can later protect them with his defensive effect of just dropping security whenever they would leave the battle area. With that being said, if you're a fan of the Angels deck, you may be thinking, man, it just needs a little bit of a push to put it over the edge. Well, the new BT18 cards might be the answer you've been looking for. The next deck we're going to take a close look at is going to be what I would call Ice Hybrid or Ice-Clad Hybrid. I don't know. If you guys have a better name, let me know in the comments below. I know you've probably seen basic Blue Hybrid and Red Hybrid, but this one takes the blue base and combines it with some of the new Source Stripping cards to create a deck that has answers to pretty much every situation. As per usual, this one has booty card shop photo quality, so I've gone ahead and recreated this bad boy in DigimonCard.dev's deck builder. The lower end for the deck here features Stravimon for search, you've got Gomamon here to recycle bodies on board, and then the combination of Penguinmon and Bokomon to reduce evolution costs. Level 4s feature the Kumamon and Korikakumon duo, who are able to source strip, gain jamming, and bully opponents Digimon who don't have sources. Meanwhile, at level 5s, you've got a combination of the new and old Beowulfmon cards who can essentially bounce opponents Digimon on attack, as well as the new Daipanmon who has the Ice Cloud ability which lets you battle with sources instead of DP. Another added benefit of this guy is that you can actually evolve into him over a Tommy Tamer for 3 if you take the 2 level 4s I mentioned previously from your trash and just stick them up under that Tamer. Level 6s for this deck support even more bouncing thanks to the Ancient Garurumon, and he's actually the reason you see the Promo Lobomon at level 4 in this deck as well. You also got the addition of the 1 copy of the Hexaballmon for complete source stripping control, as well as the 2 ace cards in Vikemon Ace and the Gabumon Bond of Friendship Ace. The Tamers for this deck focus on the Tamihimi, who lets you discard cards at the start of your main phase in order to gain memory, and then later in Inheritance, whenever he attacks he can source strip something with the added bonus of maybe being able to draw cards. Additionally, we've got the recently unrestricted BT7 Tamihimi Tamer who lets you source strip 3 and then freeze opponent's Digimon on attack. Outside of these two guys, you also got the 1 copy of the Takia plus Koji Tamer as a way to pseudo blitz to close out games, and as a 3 memory setter every turn. So if you're looking forward to some of the more unconventional builds for hybrids in BT18, but you want ones that still pack quite a punch, then look no further than Ice Cloud Hybrid. Each week, I allow my champion level and higher YouTube members to vote on decks they'd like to see featured in these meta report videos, and this week, even though it was a tight race, SLC Purple Hybrid just edged it out over Zafagamon and Leopardmon. And if you'd like to vote on decks that you want to see featured in these meta report videos, as well as some other cool perks and bonuses, consider becoming a champion level YouTube member as well. And with that said, I want to give a big shout out to all the folks who do support the channel, and let's take a look at Purple Hybrid. So Purple Hybrid SOC takes the Purple Hybrid cards as the meat for the deck and then sandwiches it between SOC cards. Getting a better look at the deck, at the level 3s you've got the Lugamon here to get your Cracker Fang and AG cards either from the trash or hand onto the board for cheap. And then smartly enough, your AG Tamers can be digivolved into any of the Purple Hybrid cards, and then at the end of the turn you can unmind link them to reuse the Tamer for more hybrids next turn. This is a strategy that's also really popular with the Black Hybrid cards who use the Digipolice and SOC Tamers as well. Other than the AG Tamer, the deck also features the Koichi Tamers from BT7 and BT18 as a way to either cycle cards or gain memory. And then you can use those Tamers in conjunction with the Purple Hybrids to cycle even more cards and then destroy opponent's Digimon on board. The upper end of this deck is where I think things get really interesting. Rather than going on a stall based or cheap evolution based tactic with like a Metal Garurumon or a Venusmon, this deck opts to use the purple SOC cards in the Dodogodamon and Dex Dodogodamon line. This gives you access to Tamer Destruction for the Dodogodamon, as well as a way to save yourself whenever you would be deleted using the Dex Dodogodamon in trash. This plus the Dodogodamon's collision ability allows you to exert wide pressure on the board. You can then use this pressure and then go into your level 5s to play even more Tamers to go into more Purple Hybrids and go wide the following turns. It's a really straightforward and simple strategy, but a really potent one as well. So if you're a fan of the Lugamon cards and also interested in the Purple Hybrids, definitely give this one a shot. And with that, we're going to wrap up the 3rd week of events for the BT18 Element Successor set over here in Asia. I think that the competitive landscape has been pretty much settled at this point, but I am really excited to see people trying out and still experimenting with some of the new hybrid cards. Seeing things like the Ice Cloud Hybrid and the Purple Hybrid SOC gives me a lot of hope for what can actually come from these cards. Anyways folks, I'm going to get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.